a good time. Let me do that. Okay. Good morning. My name is Dave Worland. I'm with the Governor's Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiative. This is we do a monthly webinar where we invite folks from around the state to come and encourage both pastors and leaders, religious leaders, folks from nonprofits around the state to hear about what's going on, to get an effective seat at the table, to hear firsthand some of the incredible things taking place. And we are thrilled today to have a panel of leaders from around the state around Second Chances Month. And we are especially excited that Governor Bill Lee has joined us today. He's got an incredibly busy schedule, but this is an important topic for him. And so, Governor Lee, I'm going to turn it over to you, let you have comments and introduce the panel.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your work. Dave came on board. We've known each other for many years, but he came on board my office to start the Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, and it is it's our effort in the Governor's Office to create a liaison between our office and the community, and particularly nonprofits, faith community organizations. And so I appreciate the work you do, Dave, but primarily what I appreciate are the folks on this call and your connection to us and to our office through the faith-based office. We want that to expand over the years and for this to be a real asset for the community. I'm excited to start this call off, and I do have to drop off after I do it, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to start it off. It's Second Chance Month, but it's something even bigger for me and for us in the state. I think particularly those of us who are interested in second chances, in reentry, in diversion, in all things criminal justice. You may or may not have heard my own personal story and interaction with the criminal justice system, but some 20 years ago, I got involved in a nonprofit that was engaged. Primarily, it's a ministry called Men of Valor. Actually, Raul Lopez is one of our panelists today, but I got involved and got on the board of Men of Valor and started mentoring, really started interacting with men in prison, ultimately deciding to mentor some coming out. And it started a 20-year plus interaction with the criminal justice system and a real deep belief in my heart that we could do better and that we should never stop pursuing reform in that way. So you can imagine the excitement that I have as a governor to be able to bring forth legislation and have it become law in our state that will substantively impact the criminal justice system in what I believe is a very positive way. It's not coincidental, I don't believe, that this call occurs today, the day that the Senate will vote. The House has passed that legislation overwhelmingly. The Senate will vote on that today, and the law and the legislation will be headed to my desk likely in just a couple of hours, or at least it will be available to be headed to my desk in just a couple of hours, and we will have passed criminal justice reform, substantive change in this state that I'm thrilled to be a part of. Many of you had much to say about that publicly, and I'm very, very grateful for that. As I've said to people, the reason that matters to me is there are kids that won't go to prison because of this legislation. There are men who will not be separated from their families because of this legislation. There are people who will have a parole hearing that wouldn't have had it before. There are people who will get out, men and women who need to become productive citizens, and they'll get out and they wouldn't have gotten out were it not for this legislation. There is an appropriateness to being tough on crime, but being very smart on crime at the same time. And that's where we're headed in Tennessee. And I am incredibly grateful for those of you who have advocated for this and worked for it. And I'm telling you that today is a very important day with respect to criminal justice reform. There are panelists on this call that know a lot more about it than I do. I was excited about it and inspired by many of these on this call who have pushed me forward in my efforts to work together with the legislature. And by the way, I gotta say the legislature has been an incredible partner in this. I think we had, out of 99 state reps, we had one dissenting vote of all the House members in this state on this criminal justice reform package that frankly is very difficult to get through states like ours, but they've been great partners. But the folks on this call, I mean, on this panel, they're the ones that do the work. They're the ones that really make it happen. They're the ones that are inspiring people like me. They are the ones who know the details. They know the men and women. They know the life stories. They've lived it themselves in some ways. And I know each one of them, and I'm deeply grateful for their work in this state. I'm telling you, we're going to be a different state in a few years because of the work of these men and women and the things that are happening in Tennessee, and I'm excited about that. So DeAndre Brown is the Executive Director of Lifeline to Success, based out of Shelby County. I've been there. It's a powerful work, and he's a powerful man, and we're grateful. He's going to be on this panel. Lisa Tipton is Executive Director of Families Free, which is based all the way in the other side of the state in Johnson City, Tennessee, because this issue is one that affects every Tennessean. I'm grateful for her participation here. Matthew Charles is someone that most everyone knows, a strong criminal justice reform advocate. He is a Tennessean who was one of the first released under the First Step Act. And he and I have had multiple conversations, and a strong man with a genuine spirit and inspiring heart. And Raul Lopez is Executive Director of Men of Valor. Raul and I can't describe our relationship and friendship because it's too long, but neither one of us would want you to know how old we are and how long we've known each other. But most importantly, through Men of Valor, which I've had a very strong connection, and frankly, Men of Valor has been an incredibly important part of my life. And Raul has been a great leader for that organization. These panelists will inspire you, and they've certainly inspired me. They're changing lives every single day, and I'm one of the lives they've changed. So I'm grateful for each one of you all. Thanks for having me on the call for a minute just to encourage you, and I'll let you experts take over.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your time and your passion in this space and your consistency. The state will be better because of the work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
DeAndre, I'd like to start with you. I'm going to remind you to take your off of mute there. You often speak of your role of faith and how it's played a role in you turning your life back around. Can you speak of how your faith perspective on redemption has helped shape the programming that Lifeline to Success provides today?
Thank you, Dave. And to our governor who's left us, I appreciate his efforts. I appreciate the relationship. And to the panelists, good to see you all this morning. For me, I don't really understand how an individual survives in this world without faith. My faith was increased while I was in prison because I found myself alone. And in my alone time, I developed a real relationship with Jesus. And he has allowed me to take the pain of prison and the trauma of prison and develop a platform that allows men and women that have also gone that way to understand that life is, there's a possibility to be better, a possibility to be different, to leave a life of crime and to become a positive, productive citizen. And when I have tough decisions to make, I always lean on the Bible. Jesus was one that always gave chances. So our program is one that gives multiple chances. We understand that the men and women that we encounter have been extremely traumatized, multiple offenses, some even violent. And one of their first ways of making excuses is to quit on things they start. So we don't allow that to if you make a bad decision, you make a mistake, we understand it's part of recovery, and we bring them back into the fold, restore them to where they were when they left, and attempt to use that as a baseline to help them learn to grow and become better productive citizens.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Raul, Men of Valor is well known for the faith-based programming that you provide inside of prisons ahead of release. From your perspective, how does the ministry of redemption and second chances help prepare the hearts of men that you serve for the challenges and opportunities that they'll face upon release?
Thank you, Dave, and DeAndre. Great to see you and Matthew and Lisa and everybody, and love what the governor's doing. And thank you again for letting us be part of this, so we can share the community. Yeah, the thing about being in prison is hopelessness. So what we try to do is bring hope to the men in prison. And like DeAndre said, without faith, that's impossible. So true hope is impossible. So we try to bring hope to that. And then through that, we also bring a purpose and a calling. Because what happens, the Word of God says, without vision, people perish. And without a purpose and a calling, there's no hope. So we try to work with the men and show them that God has a redemption plan for you. And no matter what you've done, it's not impossible for God to heal that and to restore you. And try to teach them who they are, their identity in Christ, that they've been chosen for such a time as this. So try to give them that hope and that purpose that they need in life. And we also have a reentry component, and that reentry component is huge, because the word clearly says the cares of the world strangle the seed. So we plant the seed in the prison, but when they come outside, that hopelessness starts kicking in if they don't see results. So we try to encourage them for a year to let them re-enter society so they can be givers to the community as opposed to takers. But it all stems from hope, and hope stems from a purpose, to have an actual purpose and find out what your calling is.
Okay, very good. I know I've been to your facility on the reentry side, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think one of the things I appreciate about what all of you all are doing is that working with people that are coming out of prison, you're not doing things second class. Everything continues to be done in a first class, excellent way, helping to encourage folks where they are, that they've got great opportunity ahead of them. And I know we'll talk some about this later, but the receptiveness of the community to the reputation you all have brought, you that do hard work you all do in helping the communities be prepared when they come back in to re-enter into society and have an opportunity is huge. And you just can't underscore that enough, the work each of you are doing in your communities. Thank you for that. Lisa, Family is Free is unique in this group, and that you primarily serve women, especially those with substance use related challenges. How does the message of second chances shape the work that you do? And what do you find really helps forge a new path for the women you serve?
Thank you, Dave, for allowing me to be on this awesome panel. And it has been just a real joy to be a part of the Criminal Justice Reform Task Force that Governor Lee had instituted, and see all the attention and the care and the commitment to excellence that we are seeing on behalf of the people that we serve in our communities. And at Families Free, our core principle is that love restores. And we seek to engage the women that we serve in jails, and also when they get out and are reentering and come into our treatment programming. And some even get to live in the story house that you and your wife were able to visit a couple of years ago. And what we want to do is we want to live out our faith in such a way that they believe that love can restore them, and that their love can then restore their children and their families, because we believe that God's love restores us all. And that's what we seek to do at Families Free, and just to meet each woman where they are and understand their story, how they got to the point they're at when we meet them, and then walk with them all the way through getting out of jail, navigating the systems to reestablish themselves with their children, and then providing a home for those children, part of a community of faith, of recovery, of relationships, and just to be fully integrated back into what I believe the heart of God is for all of us, and that's relationships and community.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I know, and you're right. It was wonderful to be at the Story House when we were visiting up in that area. And one of the things that struck me about all of the organizations is that it doesn't take somebody with just extraordinary background to be involved. What I'm hearing in each of your stories is it takes ordinary people that are just willing to engage with people, just live life. I mean, just average folks, individuals that if they're just willing to give time, it just opens so many doors. And we're going to talk some about that later, but I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I really do. It's just incredible to see it across the state, the great work that's taking place. Matthew, we're excited about you being part of this. You've been a leading voice in the criminal justice reform movement since your release, and you're often called upon to share your story, not only here in the state, but nationally. I know we were talking earlier on the panel before we went live and about your many times you've been up to DC and the voice you've been able to share up there. What do you wish more people understood about what it's like to return to society from incarceration, and how can Tennesseans help to better serve those seeking their second chance?
Good morning, David. Thank you as well for being on the panel. I thank the governor and all the panelists. Whenever I was released from prison, I ran into a lot of different problems dealing with reentry. So my take on it would be Tennesseans can help people receive their second chances by becoming more involved or active in the process or the productivity of these men and women, because these people are coming out of prison with shattered lives. They've been incarcerated for a period of time that has allowed them to sit back, think, and reflect. We know that a lot of them come out and they want to be beneficial to society because they have family, they have children, plus they just want, to have their dignity restored. So I would say that we Tennesseans need to be on the front end as opposed to the middle or the tail end. And we're definitely not on the tail end because we got a great governor who understands the subject. And so therefore, we want to be on the front end saying, what can we do to help these men and women that are being released be productive members of society? We know that these things exist for the average person, whether they're being incarcerated or not. And these are the same pitfalls that are stopping those that are being released from being able to succeed, which comes to, bear as far as housing, comes to, deal with employment, as well as just being able to get back into the community, be accepted in the community. So Tennesseans can help by helping other people by investing in the lives of the men and women that are being released.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions I'm just going to throw out and let several of you all, if you'd like to speak into it, feel free, just kind of take your mic off mute and respond to it. But part of providing meaningful second chances to those that are returning from incarceration is breaking the stigma that having a criminal record can bring. I think that we are seeing society start to embrace an understanding of reentry and second chances, but we still have a lot of work to do. If you could task society with one thing, what would it be?
I'll jump in, Dave. Lifeline Success was created solely for their purpose, to change the perception of what it is to be a person with a felony conviction. Because when I came home from prison, I realized that I was not seen as a citizen anymore. I was seen as second class, other than one that didn't deserve the opportunities that normal folks get. So we decided to take men and women that society had turned their backs on, ostracized and left aside, and began to work together as a team. And we went into the community and began to volunteer. And that gave the men and women a sense of ownership, but it let the community see them as non-threatening and people that had something to give back. And what I would say to the citizens of the state of Tennessee or anyone in this country, what we have to do is, first of all, see men and women with felony convictions as men and women. or we may have made bad decisions in the past, is not a predictor of our future behavior. And if you give us an environment that receives us, loves us, and provides us with hope and true opportunity, not one that's waiting for us to fail, but one that gives us the ability to thrive and take care of ourselves, our children, and become role models, then you'll see Tennessee change. I love the fact that the governor is leading in this effort. I appreciate his work. I appreciate his relationship and friendship. I appreciate all of you, but more importantly, I appreciate those on the panel because I know they'll leave with the charge to go speak up for us and be a voice for the voiceless.
Great. Thank you, DeAndre.
Amen.
Others, anyone else?
Yeah, well, it's hard to follow that, but I think the biggest thing the community needs to know is education. Number one is, I don't care what you do. I mean, a felony should not be a lifetime situation. In other words, just because you've committed a felony, it's like a life sentence. You can't find housing, you can't find jobs, you can't for the rest of your life. And you might have changed how you act, you might have been changed totally. But I don't think a lot of people realize that. And they really have no idea that a consequence that you might have done in your early 20s or something will affect the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if a lot of people know the barriers to re-enter society. I have a good friend, Josh Smith, I'm sure everybody here knows from Fourth Purpose. And he said a great story that he drove by an apartment complex and says, I could buy that apartment, but I can't rent it. I can't rent a room. Mm-hmm. And that just shows you how our society needs to be educated that we're setting up people to fail instead of looking for ways for them to succeed. So education is the biggest thing I would think in Second Chance Month that really gets society know that people are trying to change, but we're putting too many barriers to make that happen.
Okay.
And Dave,
Lisa.
if I could, what I would add to that would be that I think in our region, and I believe it's true across the state, the best way to combat stigma is a restored life. And we are seeing through the efforts of Commissioner Williams to bring recovery courts across the state. As I'm listening to this, the images that come to my mind are the relationships that are formed when competent leadership, such as Governor Lee, puts things in place where teams of people can learn to work together and really invest in those re-entering in a way that balances opportunity with community safety as we create those opportunities. And one of the things that comes to my mind that's just precious is on some of our recovery court teams, we have had judges come to baptisms of our participants. We've had district attorneys at birthday parties for babies that are born to ladies completely drug-free because they were released from jail to be in our recovery court and in our programming. And I'm seeing over and over and over again that Tennesseans love a story of restoration. And if we as leadership under the direction of our governor can do a good job with this, our community is going to get on board because nothing speaks louder than living proof of a restored life.
Very good. Good.
And I would
Matthew.
just add, and I would just add, as the panelists already stated, we know that whenever someone is released back into society, like Raul has stated, they ran into a lot of barriers. We just got to be prepared for those barriers. We need more resources, more assistance, more programs out there that also understand and reach out and help the people. We're not saying cripple or disable a person from being productive themselves. We're just saying give them a helping hand. And we know, just statistically wise, over 95% of those that are incarcerated nationwide are going to be returning to their communities. And we know by them returning to their communities, we know that they're going to react to, interact with other people in those communities. So we just know also that day 1, day 2, day 3 of a person being released from incarceration are the most important days for that person because it sets on course the rest of the life for that person and their future. So if they can get plugged in prior to being released, as well as after they're being released, like Raul and Men of Valor, great mentors there the governor spoke of as well, just having somebody that also walks with them, holds them accountable. Structure and stability is needed. So therefore, in order to do those things, we got to have those organizations up and running. Like I said, there need to be more resources, especially when it comes to housing and employment. We understand that the average person can find a job, but is it a good paying job so that he can be able to support himself and his family? And as Lisa stated, Tennesseans do love a great story, and we have came a long way from the days of just lock them up, throw away the key when they get out, let them fend for themselves. We understand that if we want to reduce the rate of recidivism, then we got to become active instead of inactive. And I'm just glad that we're having this discussion and moving forward.
Yeah. One of the things, let me ask a question to you all. I know as I've met not only with the nonprofit leaders in the communities, I've also met with employers, and there are many employers that will say, I'd be really open to engaging with folks, helping them in this process, but not everybody that comes out of prison, even if they have a good intention, is going to be successful. There's some that are not going to succeed, and they recognize that ongoing support structure outside of what the employer can provide is critical. How do employers plug into that? How do they engage with organizations, or how do they find men that they will have the best, men and women that will have the best opportunity for success entering back into the workforce? What thoughts do you have in that?
Could I jump in on that one?
Please, yes, sir.
Okay. I would say oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes those that are incarcerated, they have low educational skills, low vocational skills. And during their course of incarceration, when they're taken away from society, we see that those things increase or improve because they're able to become active on whatever vocational programs or trades that have been offered in the prison. Then you have them being released and employers saying, okay, we want to connect with those people that have the skills or the trade to be able to perform this job, even if they may have a felony background. But at the same token, oftentimes, as you already know, and as the panelists know, you don't get the opportunity to get your foot in the door because once you notify them that you are a felon, it's like you can't be trusted or you can't perform the duty. So I would say that just better preparing those that are incarcerated with vocational trades and skills, as well as be able to seek, higher education while they're incarcerated. A lot of them, go in there for the first time, they receive their high school diploma or their GED. But at the same token, we want everybody that is released to become a thriving, productive member of society. And in order for them to be a beneficiary of some of the programs that are offered to them to help them get to that placement, we know that once they receive that, they can reach back and help others, do similar things like myself is doing. You know what I mean? I came from that situation. I came out of that situation. I'm glad we're talking about faith-based initiatives because I was actually a product of that. I actually went in, didn't believe in God, became a Christian in the county jail, and for the next 22 years tried to live Christ-like to the best of my ability. And it always reminds me of the scripture that says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not unto your understanding, acknowledge him in all thy ways and he will direct your paths. Because I was on the pathway to complete disaster and failure before I met Christ. And then Christ spit me around and set me in the opposite direction. And for a lot of people that are incarcerated, men and women, this has been some of their first times to be able to set aside and actually look deep within themselves and see the root of who they actually are. And oftentimes, because they are behind bars, they want to change that. And there has to be, as you were stating, opportunities job-wise for employers to engage with these employees to say, okay, if you're willing to work and you want a chance, I'll give you a chance. Not based off of the fact that you've just been incarcerated, but based off of the fact that you can perform the job and do a good job.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Very helpful.
Yeah, it all goes back again to education. We got to educate employers, and again, it's a challenge for them, but I think it's really ironic how corporate America is commenting on all social issues right now and all political issues right now,
Mhm.
but corporate America will not hire men and women out of prison, and they don't stand up for them.
Hmm.
While entrepreneurs are
Interesting.
the ones that take the risk. And usually the entrepreneurs have a relationship with an organization like one of ours here to give them that trust.
Mhm.
But, you know, it's again, as corporate America is now going into areas that they, in my opinion, shouldn't be involved in, but yet they won't give men and women a chance of employment. And that's something that we need to educate them also. But like Matthew said, we do know there's a lot of felony-friendly jobs out there, and that's where the governor's taking a lead, and that's what we need more of, is some kind of an incentive for them to go back to school to get that skill set.
Mhm. Okay, very good. Lisa or DeAndre, do you have a comment? Well, one of the things that I've heard and that I've seen with you all, and I guess part of what I'm hoping, the more time I spend in this role, the more I see the opportunities to connect. I was on the phone yesterday with Labor and Workforce Development. They have leadership around the state, and they actually have a lot of engagement and money and focus on helping people with both trade skills and just life skills, just what they can do. And I know all of you guys work with them at some point. And I guess the employers that I've seen that have been the most successful, and this is maybe the point I wanted to bring out, is that they're not trying to do this on their own. They're not trying to just go find folks that have been in prison and have a felony and let me bring you in. They're connected with an organization like your all's, and there are a number of organizations across the state. It's not just you all. There are a number of organizations across the state. There are a number of churches and houses of worship that have strong ministries toward mentoring men and women both in prison and re-entering as they come out, both large and small churches. It's not a factor of having to be highly complicated. It's a matter of being highly committed to helping the men and women as they come out to do that. And I guess just my encouragement has always been with the businesses, don't try to do it alone. Connect with somebody else who's been there, that's used to working with the men and women, that have got support services that are available, that when they have questions as employers, they can come to you and say, what do I do? How do I handle this? And if one of the men or women really mess up, you're the one that's going in to talk to them and say, hey, look, this is where we are. This is what's happened. You know, this isn't indicative of everybody. This is where we are. And we're going to help this person to try to get back on track and get restored and be an encouragement to those communities as well. It's just, it takes all of us engaged to make this happen. And I think that's part of a key. Nobody can do it totally on their own.
Dave, if I
Yes,
could
ma'am.
also jump in,
Sure.
one of the things that I feel like we as leaders in our communities and across the state can do is to engage in relationships with employers that are seeking to understand what it means for someone to be involved in recovery court, for example, what it means for someone to be involved in alcohol and drug treatment, what it means for all of those things. Because what we see with the women that we work with, there are a lot of scaffolding activities that need to happen before they are able to be successful in employment. We have a great partnership with Tim Birchfield, the operator of a local Chick-fil-A, who has really taken the time to understand what does it look like for a woman in recovery to be able to meet the other, not just obligations, but really vital services that are needed to rebuild her life while balancing the needs of a business, because a business needs an employee to show up. I mean, we have 30 employees at Families Free. If they don't show up, we can't do what we're supposed to do every day at work. So just really going in with that understanding. We've also seen one of our local representatives, Tim Hicks, be a huge bridge to the construction industry. But there again, they are so open to employing men in our recovery courts, but they took the time to come and meet with us and understand what is required of them with their treatment, with their meetings, with their recovery courts. And we have an organization, 180 employment up here that actually comes and picks the men up at treatment and then takes them to the job site. So it's really about some innovative approaches and coming back to us if somebody's not doing too well and they're like, well, how's so-and-so doing? And we have releases in place. And then they may have to back off on their work week a little bit
Right.
in order to shore up some other areas. So it really takes a strategic, high capacity leadership team to put these things in place for long-term success.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Very good.
My computer froze, so I'm on my tablet. But I wanted to interject into this topic because it's crucial. Lisa mentioned earlier about the value of relationships. When it comes to employers, first thing you need to realize, as Matthew stated, most of the men and women that are incarcerated don't have high educational attainment, have low skills when it comes to vocational skills, but they're committed if they've been to prison more than once. How do we take advantage of the commitment level of continuously doing things that you know are going to give you detrimental results, and then shift that into a person that wants to take that same tenacity but do it in a positive way? But when an employer doesn't understand that they're getting people that have not worked before, they don't know what work ethic looks like, they don't understand why it's important to be on time. Hell, they've been selling drugs for 13, 14 years. Drug dealers aren't known for their punctuality. So if you take that person and say, I want to give you a job, they don't understand authority. They don't understand how to follow instructions. You need organizations like Men of Valor, like Lifeline to Success, that will take the men and women, teach them what it means to be responsible, why it's important to be on time, how to respect authority, give them the skills that they may need, and then the employer picks from that group. Because what happens is when you just begin to take people off the street, you set yourself up. We talked about a stigma. Employers begin to get that bad taste because someone just wasn't ready. We can guarantee you that our people will be ready. So those are the things that we need to really think about and invest in. It's good to say we want to give people chances, but are you really putting the money to give them a chance when they leave prison? Because we'll spend a whole lot to keep them locked up. But when they come home, they have to fend for themselves with no skills, with low education, and they're hopeless. So the first day something goes wrong, they go back to what they know. We can help that, but we need the ability to do that in an effective way that is not just words. And I appreciate Governor Lee because he is one that is walking the walk.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's so important that folks are working together. I mean, I think the obstacles that men and women face, you all know, as well as, again, I mean, I'm obviously a huge advocate of what the nonprofits bring to the state and the value that we have, and coordinating that and bringing them together within how the state agencies can help support that is key. But it is the nonprofits in the local communities that we want to find ways, better ways that we can resource and encourage and support. But, DeAndre, Lisa, Raul, Matthew, all what you've said about employers plugging in with people that are in this space every day, providing these support services, knowing these men. DeAndre, you said it so well. You just hire them off the street. You're setting the employer up for failure, and you're setting up just this process that everybody's just going to think negatively about it. If they'll work with organizations that are passionate about doing this work, as you all and others around the state, again, I want to continue to encourage that if you don't happen to live in one of these cities, or there's multiple organizations in your community, even these communities are represented, and you want to just find one that's really engaged in it. And as Lisa said, be an employer that's going to go sit down with them and say, what's it look like? What are the obstacles they're facing? How can we help set them up for success? They've often done this in other areas, but they've not done this here. And there is a huge workforce that's coming out of the prisons that are people that are very motivated to go to work and do things if they learn how to do that. Matthew, your observation, and I know it's well known, but it's always good to remind, 95% of the people in prison today will come out, will come home, will move into neighborhoods, look for jobs, want their kids are in school, they want to be fathers, they want to be husbands or wives, they want to be engaging. I don't want to leave it, Lisa, just the men, because I know the women play. There's many women coming out of prison, and they need a lot of help as well in this process. And we have the capacity in the state of Tennessee to do this. Let me ask one other question. It's kind of just let everybody respond to this. Y'all did a great job with that. Thank you. It's very helpful. What do you think is the biggest opportunity that we're missing out on regarding second chances? When you think about either your community or you think about the state, what would you say or what's the biggest opportunity? What should we be thinking about that we're missing regarding the second chances?
Okay, I'll go again.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I would say we're missing out on the opportunity to invest in humanity, to invest in human beings. We understand that this particular population of people are coming from incarceration, but they're still human beings. Their dignity has been trampled on during their period of incarceration for many reasons. Some prisons worse than others, but now they're being released back into society. So oftentimes they being released into a atmosphere that they're, based upon dependent upon the amount of time they actually serve in prison. Based on that, their family affiliation and what is available in the community. So once they're released back into society, I believe that we as a society should just be able to welcome them back. Just like the president had told me when I was at the State of the Union, welcome home. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to hear those words. Welcome back to the community. And we want to be able to see that that person, of course, has changed. As DeAndre has stated, we definitely want to make sure that the employer, whenever he gets somebody, he got somebody that's able to work and complete that job, as opposed to needing to be stood over and told how to do that job every hour of the day. So I think we're missing the opportunity to invest in human beings. And we know that if we're going to follow the examples of Christ for those that are believers, then we know that every person is important. We know that Christ interacted with everybody and he advised us to do likewise. So I would say we lose the opportunity of investing in somebody. We also lose the opportunity in investing in our communities when we fail to invest in that person that we're placing back into our community, because we want this person to be a productive member of society. We know that they're coming out, they're going to have barriers that they're faced. As I stated a little bit earlier, there's like the first 3 days of determination as far as which way I'm going to go. I know that the probation officer or the parole officer may be telling me I need to do this, that, and the other. But at the same token, I know that I need to secure housing, because housing is stability, it's structure. You know what I mean? It's community. And I believe that is intertwined with that person being a successful family member, being a successful husband or a wife, being a successful, co-worker on the job, and being a benefit of society where he himself becomes a member. So I just say that we need to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity of just investing into a person that we know has been in an awkward situation that he placed himself in, but he can become a vibrant member of society, somebody that we can look to and others that fall down those same roads or in that same hole and say, hey, this person did it, this person succeeded, I know that I can as well.
I believe
Very good.
to have the beloved community that has the benefit of so many hidden treasures and talents that have been overlooked, they have been stifled because of a felony conviction. If we do this the right way, the community can become whole. We don't have gaps. Because there's so many talents that we're missing that could fill so many voids and spaces, because God uniquely equips all of us. And if our gift isn't realized, the community suffers. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 4:28 that let him who stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands, that which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. And if we do that the right way, if we let this scripture live out as I have, God has blessed me tremendously to work with my hands and then provide opportunities for other men and women to do the exact same thing, hopefully realizing that their full potential can be realized eventually before their time is spent on earth. If we do this the right way, we have the ability to have the beloved community that has all of the gifts and talents that God put on this earth. And we can truly have the American dream realized in our lifetime.
Very good.
And Dave, I would like to add, I just love what Matthew and DeAndre said. I wish I could say dignity like Matthew. That is very cool. But in addition to that, I believe as a believer and a social worker, we have so many opportunities in our state where the systems intersect with the lives of people. That could be a jail, it could be a courtroom, Department of Children's Services, a hospital room where a mom's just delivered a baby that's having withdrawals. There are so many places where our fellow community members are intersecting with the system. I believe it's our moral obligation to meet them with help, to meet them with a path to healing and restoration, because it's no secret where they are. We don't really have to go out in the hills and hollers looking for people to help. They're presenting themselves in our systems every day, and we need to be ready with a path to a different way of life.
Yeah, very good.
That's awesome. What everybody's saying is spot on. I think the lost opportunity, or the opportunity we can get, is to get the church involved. And Dave, that's what you're doing, and I appreciate it as well as the governor, because that's what the church is all about: second chances. If we can actually celebrate the word and not just have it a month-long expression, that we actually give people second chances. And Jesus said that over and over again. You know, he even in his prayer, he says, forgive others, you know, and then we'll receive forgiveness, right? He also says, take away, you know, the log out of your eye, you know, while you're trying to take away the speck. So all throughout process, God is about redemption, forgiveness, and second chances. And we as a church have failed on that, in my opinion. The church, this should be a church thing. I mean, he tells us to go to the prisons. He commands us to go to the prisons. He commands us to minister to the widows. And to me, a widow could be someone who lost their husband to prison, and the orphans, the kids that are left behind. So it's a commandment. And our churches, that's not something it's usually preached about, is let's go out to the prisons and do, you know, minister. Let's invite people into society and walk alongside of them and mentor. That, you know, back in the day, the churches started all the hospitals. Maybe we should start all the hospitals from people coming out of prison. So that's where I think the opportunity is huge, is in the churches.
Okay, very good, very good. This has been incredible. I know we have a number of notes that are in the chat, and we're going to capture those and make sure that if there's any particular questions or that would go to any one of you all or resources, we'll make sure that those are distributed to everybody that's on the call and those that were part of our regular mailing list. Not everybody could be a part of the call today because we had a little bit different time today than we normally have on these webinars. We did that because of the governor's schedule. We appreciate you all taking your time today to share with us both your wisdom and your knowledge. And I know that this is a passion for each of you all. This is not something that you've jumped into now because the opportunity's here. You've been doing this for a long time, and thankful that, you know, this administration has taken the leadership to bring prison reform where it is, but wherever it carries it at whatever point, we know that you and your organizations are going to be continuing from here on. And we're just thankful that you're in place. We're thankful for the work that you're doing in your communities. And we're hoping that as the pandemic comes to hopefully a place where we can create another in-person summit, that I know several of you all have hosted those, but we would love to have something that we can bring people together in different parts of the state and be able to encourage both employers and churches and houses of worship and others that would be interested in coming together and finding ways that they can successfully mentor individuals when they're in prison, when they come out of prison, or to be able to connect with the support services that are already in place. They don't have to be created in the communities. They're already there. They're already being funded by philanthropists and by cities and counties in the state, and they're engaged in a way that they can meet those needs and then be able to get them successfully placed in employment. And you mentioned housing and employment, two critical things, the support services that come around that. When those three things are brought together and they do it in a way, then you do have people whose dignity is restored, who citizenship, true citizenship is restored, and they become vital part of who we are as Tennesseans. So I thank you all very much. Any final words? I think we've got, we said an hour, you've got 7 minutes. If you have a final word you'd like to make, I'll give you that. Last call.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. I would like to say thank you to you as well as the governor, as well as the rest of the panelists, because Tennessee is on the move, you know what I mean, in the right direction. We understand that we want all those that are incarcerated to be able to be released and not only be productive members of society, but become contributors to society, you know, and in order to do that, we got to change the way that we were going and go in the right direction. And we're doing that. We know what the needs of those that are incarcerated that are being released are. I mean, everybody know what those needs are. And we're thankful that there are several organizations out there that are actually meeting some of those needs. But also, as we stated, we need the door to be open a little bit wider than what it is. Right now, it's just crack, you know what I mean? We got a nice breeze coming through, but we want the whole house wound up as just, instead of just one room. So, you know, I'm just thankful to be in the great state of Tennessee, to see what our governor, who understands this matter, who is willing and open to listen to ideas and move forward. And that's, you know, like I said, that's a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? Where the door is wide open. So I just look forward to seeing what Tennessee does, and hopefully more organizations, not only in the state of Tennessee, but nationwide, understand if you got 95% of those that are being incarcerated being released back into society, we want these people, whether they're male or female, Lisa, nah, just joking, or whether they're male or female, to become productive members of society and thrive, you know what I mean, and move their families forward, because it's all about faith, family, and community.
Amen. Amen.
I'd like to add that I just wanted to thank you all of you on the panel that are doing the work from the heart, for those that are watching us, those that will watch us in the future, to our governor, to our legislature, those that pull the levels of power and have the ability to create a system that is just and equitable. I pray that the Lord will touch your heart. I pray that something was said today, a seed was planted that would allow those that are allies to go out and advocate for us. Because although God has given me some measure of success, I'm still a convicted felon, and all of those collateral consequences still hinder my life every day. I pray that we will, as a society, begin to see people as people. And if we do that the right way, give them the resources, find someone that has an issue and walk and live life with them. And the more we do that, the more relationships we develop, the more we begin to see people through the eyes of Christ. Society will change, our communities will change, but more importantly, our families will change. And we'll have the ability to control our children and help to society to make those young men that may be going astray see a better path, because they'll have role models that have come back home and returned to society and become a different man or woman than they were before they left.
Very good. Very good.
We'll save the best for last. It'll be Lisa. So I just want to say, I want to, first of all, Dave, thank you again for this. This is wonderful, not only for what you're doing for criminal justice reform, but what you're doing for the faith community throughout our state. It is so needed. Our state, you know, our country was founded on Christian values, and we need to continue that, even though many are starting to push that back. That being said, I want to thank the governor too. Obviously, he leads the charge and has led the way.
Yep.
But I also want to encourage everyone that is watching this to stay involved. And I'm sure many of you are, you wouldn't be on this, but stay involved, get the community involved. We are about to pass historic legislation today, as the governor said earlier, but there's still a lot more to do, as Matthew said. So we need to get involved by next year to get more passed. So involve politically, involve with educating the church, as well as those companies that hire people. Just be involved in everyday education. So advocacy in all those realms is needed now. And we've got the momentum, because we know that organizations like this works, and we know it makes sense, not only to the individuals, to the family, but our whole state in Tennessee.
And I just want to say thank you to each of the other panelists. It's been a real honor to be on with each of you all, and Dave and Governor Lee. And I think the thought that I'd like to leave people with is that men and women really do want to change their lives. the people that we encounter in jail and out of jail that come to Families Free for treatment, they all have a story. They were all 6, 7-year-old kids once, and none of them had the dream of their life becoming where they find themselves. And somewhere deep inside them, we always see the ability to respond to care and to respond to love. And really, I believe as a believer, to respond to Jesus reaching out and loving people through us. So I would just encourage those around our state to keep believing that people really can get better, that they can be restored. We don't just need to manage these problems. We need, as everyone else has said, to invest in people as community members, human beings, and really keep believing that everyone is worth a second chance.
Very good. Very well said. Again, thank each of you for your time today, for your excellent insight. If you've been watching the chats, people have just been so appreciative of your time and have made comments of just the quality and the good investment of time that this hour has been. I would encourage you, based on, we've all talked about the legislation being passed, leadership from the governor is certainly there, but the support of the legislators have been tremendous. So if you get an opportunity, or when you do get an opportunity today after this is passed, just drop them a note and just say thank you. Let them know that how important it is and how much you appreciate what they're doing. This is, we are a citizen-led government. We all participate. We're all invited to participate. Some are elected to serve, and they give hard, difficult time, a lot of time and effort and put into this type of legislation, and to see everyone coming together. You all have all said it's a historic time for us. Thankful to be a Tennessean at this point in my life. Thankful for what's taking place in our great state of Tennessee. We're going to stay on for just a minute just so we can capture the chat box. We have to copy and paste that over. But thank you guys very much. You all, I just appreciate so much all you're doing, and have a great day. God bless you all. Thank you.